up on this. Stephen, I know we're in great hands as far as just how the class is going to run today, because he is a professional educator. He's a college professor at Lone Star College. He has becoming a friend of mine. I'm enjoying over the months and years getting to know Stephen. I'm really thankful for Stephen's leadership in bringing the upper room over to the 9:45 Sunday school hour and being part of the Cornerstone class. It really means a lot to me that Stephen's done that. And he also is married to the very famous Sherry Washington.
Yay!
A lot about Stephen right there. Very smart. We're going to be in prayer for y'all in your adoption process as well. So I will let you take it away, Stephen.
Okay. Well, I just first want us to just kind of open up in prayer. And basically the papers I handed you today features the upper room. And one of the mottos, main motto we go by, and it's actually on that sign back there, if you can look back there and see. But the motto is it's a community of Chapelwood United Methodist Church that looks like Houston. So when you think about Houston, Houston may be the most diverse city in America now. I know the University of Houston, my alma mater, is, I think, either the first or second most diverse university in the United States. Second, Columbia University in New York. Different types of diversity, right? Racial diversity, ethnic diversity, generational, sexual orientation, all types of diversity, international students. One of the scriptures that, and I talked to, this is our pastor, Pastor Christian Washington, and like I was okaying everything by him first. Pastor.
We're not related.
We actually are not related, but we know each other like from a previous life. No, we actually met at Windsor Village. He was my singles director like 13, 14 years ago. So interested in connecting again here. But the scripture that we talked about, it was actually a sermon that Christian preached last Sunday on the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan. And you guys should go listen to that. It's in the archives on the Chapelwood website. Very great message, and it just talked about, I think the main part I got from it was reconciliation. If you know the history of the Samaritans and the Jews, they weren't that friendly towards each other back in the Old Testament. But it just showed, I think it showed reconciliation. And that's something that Jesus was teaching. Okay, so before we get to the panel, I just want to kind of squash some myths, okay? So some people might have thought the upper room was a black church. Some people may have thought the upper room was a church with just people under 40. Some people may have thought the upper room was a church with just people that lived inside of 16 Loop. I live in Cyprus, okay. So those are some of the myths that we want to squash. And I don't know if y'all remember Mercy Street, but the main thing with Mercy Street, they said, was basically recovery. Well, one of our things is, there's a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, and he said this back in the 1960s, but he said that the most segregated hour in America is 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning. You know, which is still true to a certain degree. But one of the upper room's missions is to break down those walls. You know, not only racially, but across the spectrum, just to break down those walls. If you look in the Bible, Revelation and Genesis, it talks about diversity and unity coming together. So, but I really want you to hear what these folks have to say. So, what I want to do, first of all, is just have everybody give a brief introduction. I know Christian Washington, you may know, but he could give a brief introduction for himself, and then we'll go into some of these questions. So.
Well, I'm Christian. My wife, Joanne, is the one holding that camera for the gorgeous one back there is my wife. I, like Stephen, married up, and I'm proud of that. We've been married, it'll be 14 years next week, July 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been part of Chapelwood as a consultant or pastor for 5 years now. Just time has flown. We'll be celebrating the 4th anniversary of the Upper Room in September. We started on September 11th, 2011. Easy to remember. And at that time, I was not a pastor. I was a consultant who was helping to create a culture that would feed into the vision that actually a number of people had, in particular Jim Jackson, when he said he's been a pastor, he's been a very successful pastor for a long time, but he's never had the privilege of pastoring a church that looked like heaven. And he felt like that was the only regret in his ministry life. But then when we started the Upper Room, he said at one of our early services, this is the opportunity for Chapelwood to do what I've been wanting to do for a long time. Him having grown up in the civil rights movement in Georgia and other places. So this is a fulfillment of a number of dreams. I can tell you it wasn't mine initially. I thought that I would come here and help get it started and help create a culture and leave, but in the midst of it, I found calling here and purpose, and now I'll be celebrating maybe my 3rd year as pastor in September.
I'm Amy Vogel. I'm married to David Vogel, who's currently in Costa Rica and caught 100-pound swordfish yesterday. We've been married for 13 years. This past May, we have 3 daughters. 2 of them are here in the room on their very best behavior. Natalie, Sophia, and Ella Grace is in the nursery. And I lead the prayer ministry at the Upper Room, and if you ever want to get involved in church, you just stand up in the middle of a meeting and ask a question, and all of a sudden you're in charge of prayer. So that's how it pretty much came about for me. But I've been a lifelong Methodist. I was born and raised in the Methodist Church. I went to youth group at St. Paul's and Christian Methodist. In my early 20s, I was a member of St. Luke's, where my parents are now, and spent 10 years or so at Bear Creek United Methodist Church, and then 2 years ago, after we came back from a short stint living in Italy, we joined the Upper Room. And I was not interested in coming to Chapelwood because I'd been a member of Chapelwood-like churches all my life, and really wanted my children to experience the diversity of the body of Christ, and just being honest, didn't feel like Chapelwood was that place. And then we come to the Upper Room off a suggestion by Anita Lutz, who's in my prayer group on Monday mornings. And Christian was preaching, and I said, aha. And then my husband said, we can't join a church the first Sunday we go. It took us a year and an overseas gig, but we found our home here and have, like Christian, have found purpose and value and calling and meaning. And it's truly our family.
My name is Creighton Medlock, and I'm married to the beautiful Monsignor Medlock.
That's her. She is beautiful.
I'm on camera here.
Is this thing contagious? Can you tell whoever if you start feeling that way about your wife?
Marriage ministry.
But I'm married to the beautiful Monsignor Medlock, who's on her way to New York right now, and we came here after knowing Christian and Joanne from St. John's downtown. But like Amy, I myself have been a member of the Methodist Church since a little tyke. I grew up going to Ebenezer United Methodist right here on the northwest side of town in Chapelwood, and went to school in Maryland, came back, didn't like it, was too cold. So I started to plant roots here and started going to St. John's downtown. St. John's is a wonderful church, wonderful mission that they have there. But I started to work in the church. I got a little burnt out working in the church, so me and my wife, we kind of didn't go to church for about 3 or 4 years because it was a long drive, working, a whole bunch of it. But we started looking around for a new church, and we wanted to do something different. And I think God called us to come to a church that didn't look like what we have been, what I had been going through all my life, and what she had been going through all her life. And we were looking around, and we didn't find a fit. We went to about 5 other different churches. But when we went, either she didn't like something, or I didn't like something. And we visited the upper room on a Sunday morning, and we were both sitting there, and she came to me and told me, you know, I would like to go to this church. And I said, babe, I already filled out the card. You know, it was just, we've been here ever since, just aligning with Christian and Amy and Dave and now Oliver, Steve and Sherry. I mean, and this is family. This is what it feels like. I mean, this is what heaven is supposed to be, not just one color, one race that we see normally on a Sunday, but everybody, all issues, all problems. God wants to deal with all. I mean, and this is the way we go about it through the gospel. And I really believe in that mission, and I'm willing to walk it out as long as I'm here, doing what the church needs to be done.
My name is Oliver Carter. My family's been at Chapelwood for almost 50 years now, so some of you probably met Marty and Irene, who are my grandparents, or Bobby and Allison, my aunt and uncle. So I grew up in this church. I grew up going to all the Sunday school classes, going to kind of a charter member of the 945 service, because it was right when I was old enough to be able to go to big service and appreciate it. So I was a 945er for my entire life. And the thing that I loved about 945, and the thing that I'm starting to experience at a different level in Upper Room, is it was more relaxed, and it was more focused on the worship and less about the rigidity. But I'm very, very detail oriented, so I love the teaching. I love everything exactly how it needs to be. And I went to the Upper Room when it first got started, and committed to going and helping out and getting community there. And it was just awful at the beginning. It was horrible. I mean, everybody who's came at the beginning can kind of agree with that. There was not a good direction. There was 5 different people speaking, and then after Jim came and kind of gave you that mission and that focus for this is what the Upper Room needs to become. I think that there was a shift, and so I had already stopped going at that point. I went back to 945, and Upper Room continued to grow, but in a completely different direction. I just assumed it was going to keep being the same thing it was. I wasn't really interested in that. And apparently there was a big, big change, because we had an opportunity in January, pretty involved in the young adult community, and we had an opportunity to go to a new prayer and praise service that they were putting on, just a monthly thing. It wasn't every Sunday morning, it was last Wednesday of the month. And so a couple of us from our young adult Bible study skipped our Bible study and said, hey, we're going to go to this thing instead. That has been the catalyst for the biggest explosion of growth in my faith in my entire life. In the last 6 months, I've seen more stuff happen in my faith life and the faith life of those around me, in breaking down barriers and coming to know people, because I thought, a lot the same things, like, oh, that's, it's black church. Upper Room's not for me. I'm going to stand at 945 with my hands at my side. I didn't understand what worship was until I started coming to the Upper Room. I had no idea what it was to worship God for who He is, and not put limitations on myself based on, oh, what's everybody going to think if I put my hands up, or if I sing out loud, or stuff like that. And so it broke down a lot of paradigms in my mind for how I was supposed to experience God and how I was supposed to share God. And it's just been incredible. I can't describe it all in a minute, what's happened. But the relationship that I've been able to develop with Christian and with Amy both, with a whole slew of other people in the Upper Room, has just been incredible. And it's so far surpassed what I expected to have out of a church community, because I've always been part of Chapelwood and never had that depth, and never had that just openness. and it's been incredible, and I'm evangelizing about it, for the first time in my life, and representing it, on the ministry council, and along Creighton's now the actual representative, but I'm pretty loud and obnoxious about it too. So anyway.
That's a good segue, Oliver. And our next question is, and I'm gonna direct this towards Amy and Creighton. I'm gonna come back to you, Christian. But the next question is, how have you benefited from being a part of the upper room? And Amy, you go first.
Just act like I'm not there.
Right. Well, I touched on it before, but it really is family. And I've experienced that before. I've been a part of women's Bible studies that have really impacted me and given me mentors and pushed my faith. This is different because it's, what's the scripture there? Now is no male, female, no slave, no Jew or Greek, no slave or free in Christ. It's everybody. We're just all in one big room together. And we've also translated that to our personal lives. Mosika and Creighton and Dave and I, they come and eat ribs at our house quite often. In fact, everyone has. But we've felt comfortable to open up our home. Our middle daughter Sophia had a birthday on Friday, and for the young adults, I couldn't believe it. 27-year-olds came to a 9-year-old birthday party. It's just one of those things. And Christian and Joanne came. Joanne came after being in Paris for 48 hours. So we make time for each other. We text each other. We email each other. We spend time not only socially, but in prayer, in study, in word. It's just the whole package. And so for me, the benefit has not only been for myself, my marriage, my parenting. It's just a holistic experience, and it truly is reflective of what Jesus prayed in John 17, which was, let them be one like the Father and I are one. That's the short version. Anyway.
She blogs as well.
For me and my wife, when we first came to the upper room, we were going through a very, very rough time. My wife had just had a procedure that would not allow us to have any biological children. And, me and Christian, we got to talking about it, and I came to find out that Christian was adopted. Then, God started to put these people in different areas of my life that were also adopted. And my wife, she had talked to me about adoption, but I was like, no. I had my reservations about it, but God began to work on me through Christian and Joanne and Steve and Sherry and just in all other different walks of my life about how we're all grafted into the body. That when I started to see things God's way instead of seeing it through my flesh, it was the fit just became. I started to see how God was working, and the fit just became something that I wanted to be a part of, and I knew that this was the place for us to be. And that's how I've grown personally, and I think my wife, she's grown. I don't want to speak for her, but
I can speak for what she has.
yeah, but she's grown in areas like we no longer describe people when we see them as white or black. Like Amy, when I see Amy, I say, "What's up, sis? This is my sister." And that's what I really think about everybody now. We're all brothers and sisters in this walk together. Just solidified.
I'll go ahead and ask Pastor Christian if he can chime, even though he's a pastor, I know that there's some benefits in leading this ministry.
I think Joanne and I both have had an interesting journey to this moment. Joanne grew up in an area where in middle school she was the only person of color in her whole middle school for a while. When she graduated from high school, there were probably, I don't know, a handful of people of color in her whole high school. I grew up in Compton, California, where I didn't see a white person unless it was, I don't know, on television. So I grew up in an all-black environment. But then my entire career has been where I've been an African-American, usually the only African-American around a boardroom table or in a social or professional situation. We were both meant to, grown up to be, and equipped to be bridges. Because we both found that the key to life is being yourself. And if you can really be yourself, everyone will accept you just fine. You just have to be okay with being yourself. And that's what I think we bring to this. The way it's benefited is that our experience now has been able to be a catalyst for other people to find the same thing that we did. That you can stop categorizing people by something that they can't change, which is the color of their skin. You can start to look at people based on the content of their characters, King said, and have people in your life and friends as God puts them across your path. I think that for me has been the greatest benefit, is to be able to live out a life where my church life lines up with the rest of my life. You know, the rest of my life has always been diverse, work, but my church life wasn't. And now my church life and church family is diverse, and that has been an amazing experience. All right.
Hey, Stephen, do you mind if I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Just listening to y'all talk is making, and having had Mercy Street come in here and thinking about contemplative coming later in the branch, and I experience it from a global perspective, I guess, with my job here and history. And I think the upper room of all of our other worship communities, including probably sanctuary worship community, has been the most intentional in being a bridge to the rest of the church. Because Mercy Street started out, but then they went through a period where they were really separate, you know, wanting to office somewhere else, meet, you know, they never did, but thank goodness, I'm glad for that. And because the branch is physically located away, and even contemplative, it's sort of like we contemplatives, you know. And maybe I shouldn't put thoughts in your head that you don't already have those, but and also Christian and I have worked closely together ever since Christian came on staff, but I really commend all of you, the whole team, for reaching out to Chapelwood and not allowing yourselves to be stereotyped. That has meant a lot to me, and I think that's the big reason why there's so much success with the upper room.
I just want to chime in for a minute. It's been healing for me. Racial healing. I grew up self-segregated for about 30-some odd years. And I never thought I'd be sitting in this position. So it's just been healing and reconciliation on my part, and it's a beautiful thing. And there's still some things that God is working with me on, but I'm in a lot better place than I was before. So the next question is, how has our presence benefited of them? I think the pastor, we kind of see his leadership, but maybe some of the others. Maybe we'll go with Oliver. We'll go back to Oliver, and I think Amy spoke a little bit on it, but we'll go to Oliver and Creighton for this one. How's your presence benefited of them?
You can go right ahead, brother.
As you guys can see, I'm in a relaxed environment. I come to church as I am, but I always try to wear a smile. Regardless, you know, whatever's going on in my life, I'm gonna smile because I have no reason to be mad or sad about anything. I'm gonna embrace everybody because I know that everybody's bringing something to the table. Everybody needs a hug, everybody needs a word, everybody needs encouragement. So when I come to church like this, it's for the people who may not have nice clothes to wear to church. So when they see me, they know it's all right. Not a shave. That's just time. But I mean, that's what I think I bring. I'm usually at the door, handing out programs, trying to be a happy face for people to see when they walk in. Some people see it, you know, they don't pay attention. Other people see it, whatever. But I know why I do.
Let me just chime in on that. I'm glad you mentioned the door. When we start our service, we only have one door we leave open, and it's so you don't have to come in through the front or feel like you're disrupting the service. And at that back door, we leave that open until we get to our time of prayer, which is about 15 minutes, 20 minutes into the service. Creighton typically is the person at that door until we close it. So, and what it's evolved into is that we got our best greeter in the spot where we're going to get the most people, because Chapelwood people, now Upper Room Chapelwood people, are a late arriving crowd. You tell them 11:15 and they get there 11:25. I mean, it's just kind of, we always say, let's move it to 11:30. Well, they get there at 11:40. You know, football season, they don't get there at all. So, but it's great. I think it's being brought that we say at the end of almost every service, I say, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. And Creighton embodies that. He gives you that love when you're walking in.
All right. I'm of this group. I'm the newest part of Upper Room. Just been coming for 6 months now. So I would prefer someone like Christian answer this question on my behalf. I learned a long time ago that 90% of anything is just showing up. And so I've tried to do that with Upper Room and with the offshoots of Upper Room, like the prayer stuff, like Friday mornings, which I'll explain in a sec. But I try to just always be there and be present, whether it's to help someone else, to benefit myself. You know, for the last 5 months, it's been just for me to get fed. And then within the last couple of weeks, I feel like, okay, I'm at a place where I can start, you know, my cup is now overflowing. I can start pouring into others at a new level. But, you know, Christian told us right when we first started coming, hey, I'm going to be at this, you know, little taqueria on Washington every Friday morning. You can join me if you want. And so I'm blessed to be in a position, as our 3 best friends, to be self-employed. And so we all own businesses where we make up the hours so we can show up whenever we want. So we have 3 or 4 hour breakfasts every Friday morning with Christian. And it has been so incredible because not only have we developed a relationship, but we've built a trust that has allowed us to talk in a way to each other that a brand new person would be like, did he really just say that? You know? But we have trust, we have relationship, and so we can break down these barriers and get past these racial issues or economic divide or whatever it is and really talk through it, and we learn and grow from it so much. I think both of us do, you know, on both sides of it. And so I'll miss a lot of stuff. I will not miss Friday mornings. You know, and I do my absolute best, unless I'm out of town, to not miss Upper Room either. And so the presence of just showing up, and then, you know, like I said, I got put on the ministry council for the young adults. But ever since joining the Upper Room, I've just been, you know, loud and proud about that, you know, in all the ministry council meetings. And I think word gets back to Christian, like, tell him to be quiet. Yeah, so I try to be an advocate for the things that I believe in, and that lately has been more so the mission and the path of the Upper Room than it has been what Young Adults is doing. So trying to represent this community well at a political level within Chapelwood.
When I think of Oliver, I see an intense, enthusiastic advocate for the Upper Room. Because I can tell he's the type of person that when he puts his mind to something, he's not going to let anything get in his way of pushing that agenda. And, you know, my wife has been in prayer circle with you, and she's told me, you know, he's amazing. Amazing. You know, I'm just proud to know you and to get to know you a little bit. And willingly, and that's what I see. I mean, I think it's partly because of you, but I don't know, it's how I learn as we get to know each other. I appreciate it.
This is a layup for me, so I just got to take it. Just tight teeth up when we get out the park. When we first started this service, me, the consultant coming in, was charging it with and creating it to reach what we call the lost sheep of Chapelwood. That is, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of kids who finished high school at the church, went away to college, and have never come back, who live in the greater Houston area. Hundreds. Most of which don't feel comfortable coming back to their parents' church, their grandparents' church, for whatever reasons. They've gone away and they've experienced breakaway at A&M, or they've gone to the Austin Stone in Austin. They've gone to passion conferences, and they've, oh God forbid, raised their hands in a service. I mean, they've gone to a different place, and they want to establish their own place to worship, right? So let's create something like that here at Chapelwood. And for the first couple of years, it wasn't working, because we were trying to create something that was safe and comfortable for people from the sanctuary. If the sanctuary people said it was too loud, we had to actually try to turn it down. If the sanctuary people said, I feel put upon by you guys doing all this hand-raising stuff and what have you. And Jim gave us permission to basically say, this is not for you. This is for your kids. And we were fighting a good fight for a year and a half of that. Once I became the pastor, the first year was devastating. Most of the people from the sanctuary crowd left and went back to a place where they felt more comfortable. And God blessed them. One of the things I said as a consultant was, if the upper room is just like anything else on campus, then we don't need to have it. We need to put more into something else. So I got what I asked for. People went back to where they felt comfortable. And this space went down to, I don't know, 30, 45 people at one point at the end of 2013. 2014 was a wonderful time of growth. 2015 has been explosive growth. But for me, everything turned when 4 guys from the Bridges class showed up in January, and they haven't left. And if I cry, I cry sometimes. That was so affirming, because what it said was, this will not just be for people from the outside who have a more charismatic bent, or younger people who never grew up in Chapelwood, but this actually can accomplish the original mission, that they are not mutually exclusive. That if we are diverse, that Chapelwood kids wouldn't come back. And now more and more are coming back and finding that here's a place where I just have found a place to worship in a way that I feel comfortable, and I feel is where I'm actually going to grow. And that for me, Oliver kind of represents that.